The engine is starting up.
For launch. GC, go. Guidance, go. Fido, go. Prop, go. GMC, go. Max, go. Eagle, go. Ecom,
go. Pending final steps. The cabin link check.
3, 2, 1.
Is there anyone here that would like to communicate with us? Can you give us a sign?
Welcome to the Riftnationnetwork, the RNN, putting a slide in your glide and a dip in your hip. Welcome to the mothership, the home of the travelers of the universe. With shows throughout the week, you can find us at Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Everything you could want, everything you can need right here, right now. From the paranormal to the supernatural. From comedy to the spiritual. And now, your featured show. Shall we begin?
It's showtime, folks!
Podcast may contain material that some listeners may find sensitive, offensive, or disturbing. We strive to create respectful and informative content, but topics discussed may include mature themes such as violence, explicit language, or controversial subjects, triggering content including discussions related to mental health, trauma, or other sensitive issues, explicit language. Occasionally, our guests or hosts may use strong language. While we aim to handle these topics with care and empathy, we encourage listeners to exercise discretion. If you find any content distressing, consider skipping or seeking support. Remember that this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. If you need assistance, please consult a qualified expert.
Hello, all my creepy little weirdos. Whoa, I am definitely not helping myself with that leg today. Uh, Again, hello, all my creepy little weirdos. Welcome to Horror History and Awning tonight. As usually, I'm your tour guide through the strange, the paranormal, and the just plain weird. But here in the isolated cabin in Appalachia, we do something a little different. We tell stories by you about you. And tonight I have an interesting guest. She is a first time author of this book, The House That Echoed Madness. Her name is Destiny. She's a Punxsutawney native. And we are going to bring her up and we are going to talk about all things Destiny. Hi, Destiny. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Yay! Good. How are you?
Doing okay.
We are also both a part of Historically Haunted Booking with Adam Beggins. We kind of know each other. We're part of the Ghosty Girls online, so we kind of talk. We know each other a little bit, but this is the first time we've actually got to speak together, right?
I think so.
All right. So let's first off, well, hello, Michelle. I'm going to say hi. Hello there. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So with your book, I'm trying to multitask here and I forgot what I was doing. Oh, ADHD, too many buttons, too many things. Your book, The House That Echoed Madness. I got a copy right here. Woo! It says it's going home has never been more frightening. After years of estrangement, Temple receives a mysterious letter from an aunt she can't remember. A letter beckoning her to a decaying estate where her mother has gone mad. Warned of people disappearing and mysterious experiments gone wrong. But no matter how frightened she may be, Temple knows she has to enter that house to learn the truth. Even it has to deal with ghosts, demons, witchcraft, curses, and pure evil itself. So, what inspired
many
this book?
things, actually.
Really?
I've always been drawn to the supernatural, and I've always wondered if about family curses, because my family has always had the worst luck with a lot of different things and are very superstitious. On my mom's side is Native American, so we're definitely, I grew up being taught how to do Indian, like powwow type magic. And I am a witch, so I've studied a lot of ancestral magic. And growing up, I watched Dark Shadows, like the reruns, all kinds of shows like Tales from the Crypt, Friday the 13th, the series, The Hitchhiker. Those shows inspired me to look into my own background and to use my own experiences to become a horror writer, because I've grown up my entire life in haunted houses. Both of my grandparents' houses were both haunted, and I've always lived in a haunted place.
So you come from a very haunted background, it seems. Now, have you ever done any investigations? Or have you just, because I know you like to research locations. I was just wondering if you ever investigated also.
The closest thing I've come to investigating is the very house I live in, which is my childhood home. And the basement is the most haunted place in this house. It's the one place that I'm actually very afraid to still go down into. Ever since I was little, my brother and I, we were both terrified of the basement. And of course, my mother and her friends, they would do the Ouija board down there.
Oh,
and they would, conjure up like things they shouldn't be. Excuse me for 1 second. My son's
something's
cat
happening in her background.
Yeah, my son's cat is just. I thought he would have went to bed with my son, but he's decided to bother me. But yeah, they do
I've
a lot
got
of
5 in the house.
So yeah, they did a lot of fortune telling and a lot of messing with the Ouija board, and then kind of pulling me into dating when I was maybe 8 years old, and it was a very terrifying thing, because we did the Ouija board one time before take a trip with my Girl Scout troop to Washington D.C. and the day before, my mom's like, let's do the Ouija board with my friends, but you got to do it because you're able to read the board better, which I didn't understand that part.
Oh, wow.
But it kept warning us, don't go. If you go, something's going to happen to Adam, my brother. And I had a really bad feeling. And that night, I was having nightmares. And the next morning, when we got up, I turned off my nightlight and I went to go in and get my shower, and I came back to my room. The nightlight was back on. And I kept turning it off, and it kept turning itself back on. And so finally, my mother unplugged it, and she kind of just stuck it in the closet. But when we went on the bus, the axle broke. And we went on another bus, and a belt broke. So then we went on the third bus, and we made it down to Washington, D.C., and we were going through this old art museum. And I kept feeling like somebody was watching us. Somebody was following us. And I turned around, and there was this really creepy guy. I swear to God, he looked like almost like, I don't know if you remember, like Christopher Lee, how he looked in Dracula. It kind of resembled Christopher Lee. he was so
Oh, wow.
pale and his hair was so white. And he had this, his eyes were like real black. And everywhere we turned, I could feel him following us. And all of a sudden, we stopped to look at this painting, and my mother was like, "Where's Adam?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I don't know." And we all three, something told us to turn around. And when we turned around, my brother was staring at this big painting, and that guy was right smack up against him. He was literally hovering over my brother. And we all screamed Adam's name at the same time, and Adam came running. And of course, all these people were turning and looking, and that guy just disappeared. Nobody knew where he went.
Oh, wow.
The security guards couldn't find anyone resembling him. But for the rest of the day, my brother was very, very sick. And we were very shaken. So,
like he was basically stalked by some creepy Dracula dude. That would shake any. That's for sure.
Yeah, and my dad's always been a skeptical, and I remember we were up at my grandparents' place, and my dad looked at his parents and he said, "I swear to God, I've never in my entire life been as terrified as I was looking at that guy." He said, "I swear to God, that guy looked just like a vampire." And the way he disappeared, he said, it still shakes him to this day.
Wow. And who else saw that guy? Was it the whole group or just you guys? Or
No, it was just me, my mother, and my father.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you don't really know
Yeah.
if it was, because I know that you've mentioned before, like in the group chat, that you're a little bit sensitive. Do you think that that's what it was? Like you were seeing, your family could see what nobody else could see that day?
I think so. And I just know that every time my mother would want to do the Ouija board, she'd pull me in because she said it would provide better answers and that I kind of have a gift as like a medium. But I was always afraid because, and this is why I don't mess with the Ouija boards right now, and why I never messed with them once I had my son, because you never know what's going to come through the other side. My mother was friends with this one woman who was a witch, but she was into like satanic worshiping. And she was married 4 times. And 3 of the husbands died very tragically. And she said that she wanted their insurance money. So she used her magic to make them go away. And she was trying to break up a marriage. She succeeded. Unfortunately, the couple, they were fighting, and they ended up in a really bad car accident, and both of them were like brutally killed. And so I never liked doing the Ouija board, especially with that woman, because I could sense that she was just evil. Because it seemed like other people that if they crossed her, they would suddenly drop over dead. And I was very, very glad when my mother stopped being friends with her.
I can understand like all that negativity, like especially if you're sensitive and a sensitive child, like having that, and plus your mom was dragging you in there way too early without knowing what she was doing or protection. It was kind of, I don't want to say irresponsible, but irresponsible. I mean, like that had to have been rough as a kid, especially if you were already sensitive. You're bringing strange things into the house that you don't know what's coming through that portal that you're opening, or how to even deal with it once it does. Like that's crazy as a kid.
It is. And I, like, ever since I was in grade school, I suffer from severe insomnia. And it was like I would suffer from like sleep paralysis. I'd be dreaming about demons sitting on my chest, or I'd get awake and I'd see a dark figure at the foot of my bed, or I would just feel this evil presence, and I was terrified to go to sleep. And I mean, right now I have to depend on medication to get to sleep. It doesn't always keep me asleep, but there are still times when I find myself getting awake, especially between 3 and 4 in the morning, feeling like somebody is watching me. But my dad and my son are both asleep, but I could feel somebody watching me, and I've heard like a knock on my bedroom door, which I leave open, and I would jump awake and there would be a dark figure, but as soon as I would see them, they would disappear as fast.
Right. That's crazy.
So I'm still dealing with hauntings.
Yeah. How did you do the research of your home and maybe other places you've researched? So that ties into your TikTok stuff.
I've tried researching my house. I haven't gotten too far, except that it was built back in the 1950s, where it was like the site of an old tannery. The only person that lived there was a reverend who used to practice his sermons down in the basement. That's all that I've been able to find. The most haunted place I ever lived in was one with my son, and it was a horror. Like it looked like something out of like a medieval horror. It was just a nightmare of a place, and there was like, it was infested with rats and all kinds of other rodents, and it was really, really evil. And the only thing I was able to find out was that there had been a lot of drug use, and that there had been a lot of deaths that had occurred back in the early 1900s, where like people that had stayed there died very painful deaths. And that's the only thing that I've been able to find out about that place.
And what type of hauntings did you experience there? Because I know you told me, but so our visitors kind of understand why you said that place is so dark.
It was, well, the moment I moved in, they had to put in a whole new staircase. We went up to the one bedroom door which led into my son's bedroom, and there was literally an axe, like it almost looked like the guy from The Shining took an axe and went through the door. But when we moved in, my son was in his bedroom unpacking his toys, and all of a sudden his room filled up with hornets. And I heard them going out of the bedroom, but I couldn't find out where the hornets were coming from. And I called my landlord, and he came, and when he went in there, they were gone. And my son started having horrible nightmares. He said he was like about 8 at the time, and he said, "Mommy, I keep getting awake, and there's these really angry looking people standing around my bed, and they're scaring me. They keep trying to shake me. They keep trying to touch me." And when I would be home by myself, I was working on the computer, and I turned around, and there was a dark figure of a man standing in the doorway. And I jumped up, and he started walking towards my son's room, and I followed. And when I opened my son's room, there was nobody. So every time I was there, I hated being there alone. My mother, she refused to watch my son in that house alone, because even her and my brother, who are both sensitives, could feel there was something evil. My brother, who's an ordained minister, he's like, "This place, there's something evil in here. There's something bad. I'm afraid it's going to hurt you too." And I would feel like I was always being watched. And one time I was in the bathtub, my son was watching TV, and all of a sudden the lights went out, and the bathroom door slammed shut, and I was trying to reach for a towel, and I felt like somebody was trying to pull at the towel, and I was terrified, and I was screaming for my son, and he was trying to open the door, and finally it opened and the lights came on and there was nobody there. But I remember feeling so terrified. It was like something out of that movie, The Entity.
Being like dealing with that, like you're a single mom and your little boy at the time was so small, like you are the sole protector in that home, and to have something in your home that one you can't really see or touch, like how do you protect your son from something like that? Like that's a hard place to be as a single mom.
Yeah, it was. I mean, all I could do was do a circle of protection and keep praying. But it was like actually a duplex. We lived on the top floor, which we had the whole floor to ourselves. And there were 2 apartments down below. And nobody would stay. I mean, people would move in and then they would quickly move out. And I remember asking the one old woman, and she said, "This place is evil." She said, "I have never had so many horrifying nightmares. I've woke up and saw dark figures," and she said, "I swear to God, I felt like I was going to have a heart attack." She said, "I'm getting out of here, and I encourage you to do the same." So at the time, I was dating a guy who was an old boyfriend from the past, and even he felt uncomfortable. He's like, "I've never believed in ghosts," but he said, "There's something really wrong with this place." So he helped me immediately get a new place. And so my son and I were able to move out. They were never able to get anybody else to move back in. The place is up for sale, even though it looks like it's about ready to fall apart. But yeah, that was the most haunted place I've ever lived in, and it still terrifies me to this day.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a lot of inspiration for your book with the places that you've lived and things. Um, Most definitely.
Yeah.
Now, on your TikTok, you do like part it's historical and part it's the haunted stories of locations there in Punxsutawney. I have to ask, do you have a favorite location?
Um, no, I've gotten into going around to old cemeteries. The older, the better. Preferably cemeteries where died in the 1700s. I find that very fascinating. I wish that my late grandmother's house, somebody's living in there right now, but I wish that I could have went through there and seen, if I could have felt anything, because it was very haunted as well. But yeah, I continue to try and seek out places in hopes that I could find a way to investigate. And of course, my son wants to investigate as well. So we're both trying to figure things out in our ghost hunting quest.
Yeah, trying to get the right arsenal up, that's for sure. Part of it, trying to get the right tools. Like when you research a location for like one of your TikToks, I know that Renee asked earlier, like what's your process of doing that research? Do you do that online, or do you go to like the local library for the genealogy, or how
I
do you
do it online. I do it online, and I also go to our local historical society. And I just kind of keep digging and trying to find out who owned a lot of the houses. I mean, my one grandparents, their house was owned by a pair of sisters who were very eccentric and literally hid money in the walls. Because when my grandparents moved in, they went to tear down the wallpaper, and there was all these $100 bills. And they were
That's crazy.
apparently, from what I was told, into the occult as well. And so we often wondered if that had something to do with it. But my one memory of that staying the night there was being awake in the middle of the night and seeing a figure of a dark man standing at the foot of my bed holding what appeared to be a knife. And I looked up at the ceiling and there was a noose hanging. And I started screaming. And at the time, I was about 7, 8 years old. And my brother, of course, he slept through it until my grandfather came running. And I told my brother, and he's like, there's nobody here. I don't see anybody. Go back to sleep. You were having a nightmare. And it was like, well, not really. I was having trouble sleeping. And all of a sudden, the hall light came on and figure of a guy, and he disappeared, and I will never know who he was. Just that something horrible happened, because we were sleeping and used to belong to my mother and my aunt. And they're in the closet when they first moved in, there was this secret door. And my mother was terrified. She didn't want to sleep in that room. And so my grandfather was like, well, you guys go to school and I'll look into it. And I don't know what he found, but he built over. When she came home, he had built over that hidden door, that hidden room. He built over it, and he would not say what he found. He said, I don't want to talk about it. Just know, your grandfather and I, we both decided to build over it so that you shouldn't be afraid of it. I will probably spend the rest of my life always wondering what was in that closet or what area that made him literally build it over it. I mean, he really built over it so that nobody could ever break through to get into it.
Yeah, because that'll always be a question on the, like, what was so serious that he felt like he couldn't talk about it, and like he had to cover it like that. And it makes you wonder if future like tenants, did they ever find that hidden room behind the wall?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there was even a hidden part in the attic that only my grandfather was allowed to go over to, because he said, oh, there was a lot of bats. But my mother said that she tried going over there and it was just too frightening. She just felt this evil presence. So yeah, I will always wonder.
Right, and it's fortunate that you don't have anybody like you could talk to about it to find out any more information. So you kind of left hanging, like, what was so scary about those locations? So I understand your need to want to go, like, walk through that house again. I would too. I want to go. Let's go.
I know. I have tried so hard to try and find out the history, but my aunt and uncle said the only thing they would tell me was on the deed it belonged to those sisters, and then they have no idea who had it before them. But I mean, there was a section of the house that looked like it had been built on. Like there was a part, like this doorway in the closet that looked like at one time it led into another bedroom, but it was built over. Somebody built over and rebuilt the other side of the house. So there was a lot of secrets about the house. And I was terrified to sleep there.
Oh, I imagine so, with all that. And it makes you wonder, was the money behind the wallpaper like some sort of spell? Because they said they were eccentric and like there's suspicion of witchcraft there. I wonder if it was some sort of like money magic, to bring prosperity into the home or something like that, or was it solely just, you know, being that eccentric to hide the money under the wallpaper? Like, so many questions, unanswered questions.
Yeah, I know. There are so many questions that answers for, and it drives me insane, but that helped inspire me to write. That's the Echoing Madness.
Yeah, most definitely. I can see where your inspiration there. Now, I know that right now it's a standalone novel. Are you planning on doing more of the same theme or location as a novel, or are you wanting to do something completely different this time?
Well, I am doing another novel, but this one is going to focus more on like demonic possession. So, and possibly a little bit of a family curse as well. But right now I've been working on a couple of short stories that I've sent in about like demonic possession and witchcraft and stuff like that. So I've been, kind of busy trying to tackle different projects while trying to write a second book. So yeah, I'm hoping it'll be as good as the first one, and it's going to be a little bit of a change, but still, I might very well have the evil book that was in the House of Echoing Madness may very well show up again. So, yeah.
Awesome. Now, you're self-published, right?
Indie press. I got published through an indie press out of the UK. Yes.
Okay. And so indie press is more, can you explain that to me? Because I'm unfamiliar with indie press.
They're like a very, very small press, and they're in the UK. So it's a much smaller publishing house, but they helped with the editing. They found me a cover art. The thing is, when it comes to getting paid, I'm lucky if I get maybe $2 every couple months, because by the time they take their cut and Amazon takes their cut, that's for me. So I mean, I was blessed to find them through a connection I made on the internet, and they loved it, and I was thrilled when they said they were going to publish it. So, yeah, I tried to find traditional publishers, but I mean, if you don't know the right people, they won't even look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's only so many books that they turn out a year, and the big publishing companies are so overwhelmed with manuscripts, it's really hard to get in there. And I know there's a lot of people that are turning to more alternative publishing, and that's why I was wondering if you were self-published or what, indie, because I've heard people toss around indie publishing before, but I just wanted like clarification for myself, because I'm trying to write a fiction novel myself. So as one published author to one aspiring author, can you give any advice on like inspiration or anything like that?
I've just been inspired by what I've lived through, and also by my imagination. And it took me a year while I was living in a haunted house. I was working 2 jobs while being a single mother, but I gave up a lot of sleep to write the book. And I mean, it took me a year and then to edit it, and then it took me 10 years to find a publisher. My advice is always to never give up. And when you do, like, if you want to write a book, to reach out and make connections, to join different writers groups, because a lot of times they offer you a lot of constructive criticism, because I was able to have people kind of read my book and say,
Critique it.
okay, could you change a few things? So the whole thing is being patient, making connections, asking for help, and just kind of use your knowledge of ghosts, the supernatural, do lots of research, look into your own background. And, that's the best advice that I could give.
That's what I've heard a lot of people say, like, write what you know and write from your life experiences, like inspire your characters off people you know, things like that will help the process. Now, if you ever run into when you were writing writer's block, was there anything that worked for you?
Writer's block, I often deal with that. And, I just kind of start writing down anything that pops into my head. And that's a story. I'll just start writing what I can, and then go back and see what I've written, edit it, and just keep going. If it's too much of a writer's block, I listen to music or I do art. So I try to keep myself busy, and I do the TikTok videos oftentimes with my son. He loves the supernatural as well. So we're just trying to, keep busy doing that. And yeah, I remain hopeful that, I will continue putting out books.
Yeah, that's awesome. What always it helps me as a new author is if I'm having a hard time with something, one of two things works. Either I I go for a walk, for like a 30-minute walk, and always make sure like I'm listening to somebody else's book or a podcast or something, but I let my mind wander. But usually in that 30 minutes out and walking and not thinking about the story and then coming back to the table, something will click and I'll be like, okay, that's how I get, so-and-so to end up here or talking to this person or that kind of thing. Or another thing that works is like, if I'm at work and I don't have a lot of calls, I'll just sit and daydream and I'll be like, okay, if my characters were doing this, what would they do? Or if they had a first date, what would that be like? Like, I would kind of like role play a little bit in my head about my characters, and it gave them kind of structure and background for me. But that's how, I know it's weird, but that's how I get beyond it sometimes.
Oh yeah, I do a lot of daydreaming. And I also do a ton of reading. I read a lot, like every single night. I read mainly horror stories by other horror authors, and it helps inspire me when it comes to writing my own stories.
Most definitely.
I have been through like books, and of course, on the weekends, my son and I will go to like these old graveyards, and that kind of inspires me too. Wanting to know more about these people and letting my mind wander. So, yeah, daydreaming is definitely a big part of what helps me.
Yeah, and I completely agree with what you said. In order to be a good writer, you need to be an avid reader. And that ties into the next question. Tom Baker asked, do you know the Peter Straub books? Because he just finished Ghost Story. They just read it. I haven't read that one. I know who Peter Straub is, but I haven't read Ghost Story.
I have read it. It's excellent. It's an excellent book. It's very, very good.
Very cool. I'm taking it's about a ghost story by the title.
Yeah, it's about a group of elderly men. They're part of this secret society where they gather together and tell ghost stories. And if I'm remembering correctly, one of them has a son or nephew that returns with a story of his own about this mysterious woman who came in his life and then disappeared, and he can't find anything about her. And as it turns out, these elderly men knew of a woman, the same woman that he described. And there is a very dark secret that happened many years ago with a woman, this woman, and it resulted in a very tragic death. And she basically comes back for revenge. Her ghost comes back for revenge, and it's pretty awesome. Like gathering together and these ghost stories when in fact you were a part of one. So yeah, it was a very good book.
Right. You connect with the characters in that book, you know. Um, and that's the thing about like the paranormal community as a whole is like all of us kind of came from stories. Like we experienced something or we just heard stories about something. Usually it's an experience and it just kind of helped us build a community because not only do we have the historically haunted booking, a lot of us are paranormal or horror people, authors, vendors, actors, and so on. And then, like with the network I'm with, the Rift Radio Network, a lot of us come from a lot of paranormal backgrounds, and just like witch backgrounds, things like that. And it's funny how those experiences in our childhood and as we grow older create the type of communities because it is a taboo subject when anything that's out of the norm because people automatically think you're crazy or you're a loon or you're eccentric. But it really has a profound effect, on you as an adult and what you'll become. It really does, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So you said that you read a lot of authors. Who's your favorite author?
Well, that's a hard one. I would have to say right now, a book by an author. She passed years ago. Her name was Ruby Jean Jensen, and she was like this early grandmother who lived up in I think the Ozarks. I'm not really sure, but I know she lived isolated, and she wrote about horror stories revolving on kids. Now she wasn't afraid to like kill off a kid, which was something that was quite shocking because a lot of writers didn't want to do that. But I really admire how she wrote her because she would write about like cursed dolls and just objects. And another one of my favorite authors from back many years ago, I've read almost all of his novels, was Mao. He was the one that originally wrote the script for Beetlejuice.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
One of my favorite books from him was a book called Lady about a psychopath serial killer that happened to be this young teenage girl. But yeah, those two are my favorites. And I mean, I read Frida McFaven, if I'm pronouncing that right. And I love discovering new authors. I love reading their books and hope that they'll repay the favor by reading. So, yeah, I have a lot of favorites.
That's always
favorite
like
ones.
Yeah, well, see, I'm a classic horror. I don't want to say the bad word, but I like some of the classics like Frankenstein. I like Mary Shelley back in the day, Edgar Allan Poe. But like newer authors, I'm a Stephen King fan. I know he's taboo right now, but I've always loved his books. Hate to say it, but they were better when he was on drugs, but that's beyond the point. But they're still good books. I enjoyed Institute, Fairy Tale. Those were the last books that I've read of his. And I also liked, when I was a teenager, I was obsessed with the book Exorcist, The Exorcist. I read it about 3 times because
Oh
I
yeah,
hated it
that's a
because they
good
never
one.
explained whether it was psychological or whether it was a possession. So I read it like 3 or 4 times trying to nitpick at all the clues that were there to try to figure it out. But, the way he wrote it so well that it rode that fine line enough that there's no way to tell. You really can't in that book. Tom actually had a comment. He said that he had a paranormal encounter, but it wasn't scary. And it was long ago in 1989 when that happened. Tom, I agree with you. Not all paranormal things are scary. My first paranormal encounter
Oh
that I
yeah.
remember wasn't scary. It was far from scary. So, like, everybody has their own encounters, and not all paranormal encounters are scary. And then I hate to say it, but you kind of get desensitized too if you do a majority of investigations, because the scary stuff doesn't seem as scary when you've dealt with something really, really scary. If that made sense. Um, I've had some really scary encounters too. So I've had the spectrum. So when I go into investigation, plus I'm old and I'm a chubby, you know, love bug, but when I go to an investigation, I can't run. There's no point. So I'm just stuck there anyway. So why be scared?
Yeah.
But that's beyond the
And
point.
I would like to say I did have a non-scary paranormal experience when I was little. I walked into my parents' room and I saw this old man, and he was wearing a red checkered um suit. And I went to go get my mom. I ran to tell my mom about this guy, and she went into the bedroom and he was gone. And she said, "Well, tell me, what did he look like?" And all of a sudden, she went and she pulled out there. It was a picture of my great grandfather. I had seen my great grandfather, and I remember he was looking at me and he smiled. And that's the last thing I remember. But I've had other circumstances where I'll be laying in bed and all of a sudden I'll feel somebody sit at the bottom of my bed and kind of pat my leg, especially if I'm having like an anxiety attack. And I'll turn on the light thinking, well, maybe it's one of my cats, only to see that it's nobody. There's nobody there. So I have had paranormal experiences.
Yeah, it's funny you said that because that's basically how like my first paranormal experience that I remember was. I was 7, 8. I was 8 years old. Yeah, and my father had battled leukemia. Um, and back then, like the treatments were harsh, so he had a lot of like open because with leukemia they will get these I remember him getting like these big lumps that would bust open, and it was scary, and he lost all his hair, and he got really really skinny. And then when he went in the hospital, I remember visiting him a couple days prior and being so scared of all the machines and stuff that I didn't want to go in the room. um, which as a kid, looking back on it, I regretted. But, you don't know that, you know, that's still your grandpap, with all the tubes and stuff. So a couple days later, I was in bed, asleep. I woke up because it felt like, I thought it was my mom, to be totally honest. But I felt like somebody sit on my bed, and I woke up and I was kind of looking for her, but I could see where the bed was depressed, but nobody was there. And I smelled my grandfather smoked cigars. He had a thing for cigars, and I smelt his cigar smoke and his cologne because he always wore this Old Spice cologne. that was really popular in the 80s. And um it felt like somebody leaned over, like I felt the mattress shift, and felt him, like it felt like he kissed me on the forehead, and he got up and he was gone. And I cried and cried and cried. And then in the morning, my mom woke me up at like 5 o'clock. And I'm like, because my face was all red and everything. And I was like, I know Grandpa died. He's, she's like, how do you know that? And I'm like, I know. He came and said goodbye to me. I know. He's gone. And of course, my mom started crying, and like, because
Yeah.
she didn't understand. Um, she was convinced I heard something on the phone, or something. But yeah, that's how I found out my grandfather died. So, like, my first paranormal experience to me wasn't scary at all. It was very comforting, it was very calming, and I felt like he was saying, hey, it's okay. I get why you were scared, you know, and we didn't get to say goodbye at the hospital, but I'm saying goodbye to you now. So, yeah. And Tom
Yeah.
actually, he commented again. He said, besides people, whoops, bring it back. Of course, cats and dogs see things also. Yeah, all the time. Like, everyone that's in the
Oh yeah.
paranormal talk about
Yeah.
their dog or their
Yep.
cat, some strange corner just freaks them out, or, but they see a lot of different spectrums of light that we can't see. So, I
Oh
think
yeah.
they're seeing stuff more on the ultralight, ultraviolet spectrum or something like that. Um, Obviously, they sense, feel, and hear it. Yeah, because again, they hear different frequencies of sound, different light frequencies, and they're just more attuned. I think cats, in my opinion, are more in tune with like the paranormal than dogs. But I know dogs will respond.
Oh
I think they
yeah.
respond more to like scent triggers than anything. And he said,
Yeah. My
well, in
cats
dreams, I was
seem to
another
pick up on
person in a
things.
dream, more like being him. And it happened the next day, a deadly accident. Oh, and he didn't know that person. So you had some
Mm.
sort of premonition. That's wild, Tom. That's wild. Yeah, premonition dreams
Wow, that
are
is
another
wild.
topic that's very interesting. But go ahead. You were saying something, Destiny. I didn't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt you.
Oh, I can't remember what I was even saying. I'm sorry. Just that
That
I have
ADHD.
noticed that my cats, yeah, my one cat, she's kind of my familiar. She will kind of, I'll hear her kind of cocking her ear in the middle of the night when I'm hearing like this strange knocking noise, or I'm feeling somebody sitting on the bed. All of a sudden, she'll raise her head like she's seeing someone that I can't see. So, yeah, I think animals definitely pick up on things.
Oh, yeah. Animals pick up on things a whole lot easier than us humans can, in all shapes and sizes, whether it be, in this world or in the paranormal world. They have so many more senses and sensitivities that we can't even fathom. But I'm looking at my cat because she's never far away from me when I'm home. And it's funny that you said that like your cat was your familiar, because my boyfriend's always referring to Raven. She's like that. She's not a normal cat. Like, I think she's your familiar, because I didn't want an animal or a pet because I didn't know, like, my like I didn't know where we were going to move, but I knew we were going to move at some point, and I knew a pet was going to complicate things. So I really was not looking for a pet. I was trying to avoid getting any type of animal. I had kittens offered to me, that kind of thing. And then this cat showed up at the door and then kept showing up and kept showing up and kept showing up. And then one day because she would get to the point where she would knock on the door for a little bit of affection. And then when she was done, she'd go on about her business. Well, one day she come to the door for her affection, and then she walked right in, made herself at home, and just kind of looked at us like, oh, this is where I live now. Sorry about your luck. And we've had her ever since. But yeah, she's definitely my cat. And then we have, did you just come in here?
Oh, yeah.
Carson, Carson. Come here, Carson, Carson. Come here, buddy. And this is our other cat. This is Mr. Carson Daly, Mr. Fluffykins.
Aw. Yeah, we got about
He
4 cats. My
comes to
son has
us
his
from
own
our
cat. I have my own cat. And then we have 2 that just run around.
Well, Carson was my roommate's cat, and he had a lot of anxiety about people and noises
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff. But for some reason, he loves me and Sig, my boyfriend, to death. So she's like, well, he loves you so much, and he's so happy since you moved in and everything, you can have him. So he's our other cat. But she has 3 other cats, and one's part bobcat, that we think. Oh, let's see.
Wow, it's cool.
Yeah, they're awesome. And said, and dogs may dark, and dogs, many dogs bark at the wall. Many videos on YouTube. Yeah, there's a lot of videos of that on YouTube because I think they sense something that we can't. They suddenly get up and start barking at nothing. It's just logic.
Yeah.
And if there's a presence, an animal must sense it. It's their instinct. Unless they're familiar with what's going on, because I've seen situations where there is like a presence, but it's something they're more familiar with. And a lot of people, they don't understand that animals have feelings, especially dogs, and they get very bonded to their owners. And that's why some dogs will go repeatedly to their owners' grave sites, or they'll go to specific locations where they're used to seeing their owners, and they mourn that death. And sometimes if there is some sort of haunting where it's a familial type of connection, I've seen them not respond negatively. It's more of a waggy tail, happy, like, hey, there you are again. How you doing, my friend? Type of reaction. So it's not always a scary thing.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Now, I understand you're finally doing a book signing there, Destiny, and it's going to be at Punxsutawney, correct?
Yes. Yeah,
This
it's
is your first
actually
ever book
happening
signing?
during what my first book signing. Yes, it's actually falling on a good day because the 11th and 12th is our Wojak weekend, where we celebrate not only the groundhog but its connections to the Native American heritage of the town of Punxsutawney, and it's also Punxsutawney's 176th anniversary. So,
Awesome.
yeah, I will be actually having art in a gallery, and then that evening doing a book signing. So, it's going to be a pretty interesting weekend.
That's awesome. Where is your art gallery showing going to be, and where is your book signing location going to be?
Well, our art gallery is in Punxsutawney. It just got established. It was an old building. We had to put a lot of work into it. But that's going to be our official gallery where our artwork will, remain in there. And there was the owner of a local greenhouse is the one that reached out to me and asked me if I would be interested in doing a book signing and a Q&A, and I said absolutely. So she set that up, and it's going to fall on the Wojak weekend when there's going to be a lot of people out and around. So crossing my fingers that it goes well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But what I was trying to get, because the viewers, in case they wanted to find these locations, is it going to be at a specific location they can find?
Basically in Punxsutawney. That's where it's taking place, is in
Punxsutawney,
Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Okay. It's just a small town where you can just ask, like, hey, I'm looking for the art gallery and the greenhouse. Is it down the road a piece and to the left, or what?
Yeah. Yeah, it's in Punxsutawney for right now. But I had to, one day move and do more book signings in bigger areas, maybe near the city or in other towns, places where I can meet more people.
Most definitely. You'll have to check out some of the conventions and stuff we've been doing this year. I'm definitely going to be doing more next year. Now, Tom had one more comment here. Tom says, yes, you're right. And maybe if they know or befriend a ghost, they wouldn't bark. I agree. Like, maybe if it's a friendly ghost, maybe they talk when you're not there. Who knows? But I do agree with that. Now we're coming close up
Yeah,
to the
it's a
hour, believe
possibility.
it or not. Like we are at 10:30. So make sure with Destiny, and you wonder how. And Tom said, and you wonder how much cats have seen in their lifetime, but maybe friends on the area have ghosts or presences. Yeah, I agree. And also, you got to remember that cats have 9 lives, so who knows what they've seen in their past lives, right? Hi, Cody. We're getting ready to close out, my
Absolutely.
friend, but thank you for stopping in. Yeah, it depends, right? I gotcha with autocorrect. Um, but
Yeah.
if you make sure to check out Destiny's book, The House That Echoed Madness. You can find it on Amazon. You can look it up directly by the title because I did that just to make sure, or by her name. Check out her author profile. Also, check her out for her book signing on October 11th in Punxsutawney, guys. Come say hi. We love meeting people. Yeah, Cody's like better late than never. Sorry I missed it. Work had me tied up. That's fine, Cody. I get you. Trust me. There's always next week. And it depends on where a cat lives. That's Tom Baker. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Um, but make sure you check out her book. Most definitely keep a lookout when she finishes that second book. Or you're actually, I think, part of the anthology that I think I'm writing a story with too. That we won't talk about that yet, but there might be an anthology where
Yes, I
one of
believe
her
so.
stories are in it. Yep. So I'm
Yeah.
being yelled at. It's time to wrap up. So thank you, Destiny, for visiting. I appreciate your time and your energy. I really do. So thank you so much. I'm going to
Thank
put
you.
you over into the back lot. Love you. Mwah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I clipped her off too soon. Oh my God. I just want to take a minute. Like I said, she's going to do her first official book signing October 11th. Please check it out there in Punxsutawney if you're in the area. And as always, I just wanted to say thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. Everybody that chimed in chat, I appreciate you. I love you so much. And as always, thank you for watching and sweet dreams. Bye bye. Oh, wait a minute. Bye bye.
The engine is starting up.
For launch.